Tonight, a new era begins in the United Kingdom as Charles III is formally proclaimed king. Burial of Queen Elizabeth II to take place on September the 19th. Supporters of the Labour Party troop out in their numbers in Enugu and Ondo states to march in solidarity with the party's presidential candidate Peter Obi, say they are resolved to set a new Nigeria emerge in 2023. The People's Democratic Party in Rivers State receives defectors from opposition parties to its fold. Governor says no more opposition in the state. And flood ravages communities in Bauchi State, leaving 3 people dead and houses as well as farmlands destroyed.
And on business news tonight, Nigeria's August inflation rate seen higher at 20.4% in latest forecast by Financial Derivatives Company, ahead of official report from the National Bureau of Statistics next week.
On sports news tonight, the women's singles final between Iga Swiatek and Ons Jabeur is ongoing at Flushing Meadows as both players seek to win the US Open title for the first time.
It's the 3rd day of King Charles III's reign as Britain's sovereign, but he wasn't formally proclaimed as king until earlier today at the accession ceremony at St. James's Palace. Performing the ceremonial yet constitutional rites, the clerk of the Privy Council, Richard Tilbrook, proclaimed him king, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, before declaring, "God save the king." Well, after the proclamation, King Charles III described Queen Elizabeth II's reign as unequaled in its duration, its dedication, and its devotion. Meanwhile, the Queen's funeral will be held in Westminster Abbey on Monday, September the 19th.
3 cheers for His Majesty the King. Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip! Hooray!
The accession and proclamation ceremony of King Charles III, last held 70 years ago for his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, took place at St. James's Palace in London.
Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip! Hooray!
King Charles's son and heir to the throne, William, newly named Prince of Wales, the Queen Consort Camilla, and an array of British lawmakers from the past and present were in attendance.
Whereas it has pleased Almighty God to call to His mercy our late Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II of blessed and glorious memory, by whose decease the crown of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is solely and rightfully come to the Prince Charles Philip Arthur George. We, therefore, do now hereby, with one voice and consent of tongue and heart, publish and proclaim that the Prince Charles Philip Arthur George is now, by the death of our late sovereign of happy memory, become our only lawful and rightful liege lord, Charles III, by the grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of his other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith, to whom we do acknowledge all faith and obedience with humble affection, beseeching God, by whom kings and queens do reign, to bless His Majesty with long and happy years to reign over us. God save the King.
God save the King.
Gun salutes were then fired across the country in honor of the new monarch. Amid all the pomp and ceremony, addressing the Accession Council, the king vowed to serve the nation with loyalty, respect, and love, and delivered an emotional tribute to his late mother.
My mother's reign was unequaled in its duration, its dedication and its devotion. Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life. I am deeply aware of this great inheritance and of the duties and heavy responsibilities of sovereignty, which have now passed to me. In taking up these responsibilities, I shall strive to follow the inspiring example I have been set in upholding constitutional government and to seek the peace, harmony and prosperity of the peoples of these islands. And in carrying out the heavy task that has been laid upon me, and to which I now dedicate what remains to me of my life, I pray for the guidance and help of Almighty God.
And in Parliament, the Prime Minister and British lawmakers lined up to swear oaths of allegiance to the new King Charles III. Britain has declared a period of mourning until the state funeral for the Queen on Monday, September the 19th. The day has been declared as a public holiday. Leaders from around the world will be there, including US President Joe Biden, who confirmed his attendance on Friday. Before the funeral, the Queen's coffin will be moved from her home in Balmoral in Scotland, where she passed away, to Edinburgh for a few days until she's returned to London to lie in state.
Now, staying with King Charles III's accession, earlier today, my colleague Teniola Oyetola spoke with the immediate past British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Paul Arkwright, on how King Charles III is being received by the public in the UK. He also shared some fond memories of the King's visit to Nigeria in 2018, as well as his expectations of the relations between Nigeria and the UK under King Charles III.
Well, I think you've just seen in those clips the formal nature of the accession to the throne of the new king. But what we saw last night in the personal address that he made to the nation was much more of that personal sense. I think both a sense of loss, as any human being who has lost their mother would feel, but also that sense of duty and service to the country. And all of that together has been very warmly received in the UK. I think there's a huge well of goodwill to the new king. He was outside Buckingham Palace looking at the floral tributes with his wife, the Queen Consort, last night. Tremendous outpouring of affection and really admiration for the way that he has handled these very difficult moments.
You were the British High Commissioner in Nigeria during the King's visit in 2018. Can you share some details of that trip? Was the King fond of Nigeria? And how will this impact, the relationship going forward?
Well, I have to say the King was very excited about being in Nigeria. This was in November 2018, just at the very end of my tenure as High Commissioner in Nigeria. Obviously, he did a lot of the formal things. He met President Buhari at Aso Rock. He met a number of other politicians. But the visit reflected, I feel, his passions, his interests. So we spent a lot of time with young people. He was encouraging people to get into employment, to develop their skills. There was quite a big emphasis on the environment and sustainability. The Commonwealth, of course, was very prominent in the visit, and he commissioned the new Commonwealth War Memorial in Abuja. At that time, it was around Remembrance Day, Remembrance Sunday. And he met a very wide range of people. And one of the most memorable meetings I remember was when we had some of the most senior traditional rulers from Nigeria in my residence in Abuja. And he met and interacted with them because he wants to really understand the culture, the faiths, the diversity of Nigeria. And I think he grasped that very quickly. He thoroughly enjoyed himself, as did his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall at the time, of course. And it was a very special moment for all of us at the High Commission.
it's been confirmed that the Queen's funeral will take place on Monday. Let's just speak about that. On Monday, 19th of September at Westminster Abbey. How is Britain holding together, given that the transition of powers happened so quickly, leaving barely a moment to reflect and to grieve?
Well, transition does happen quickly. Once one monarch dies, then it automatically passes immediately to his or her successor. And that, of course, happened on Thursday afternoon when Her Majesty died. But I think the country is holding together. I think that the new king has played a very important role in that. We're facing some turbulent times in the UK, both politically, economically. We've got a winter ahead, which I think will be very difficult for many, many people in the UK. But this is a moment when everybody can come together, and it's a unifying moment. And I think there's a note of hope and a note of optimism about the family, if you like, not just the royal family, but all of us as the family of the Commonwealth as well, of course, coming together to wish the new king well, and a note of optimism for the future. So I think it's a difficult moment for the UK and for the public, but I think we're going to get through this, and hopefully we'll get through it even stronger.
Well, my colleague Teniola Oyetayo speaking with former British High Commissioner to Nigeria. Well, back here in Nigeria, the nation's partnership with the British government will continue to expand in key strategic sectors to promote the peace, progress and unity of both countries. Well, this is a submission of both the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila. They were speaking when they paid a condolence visit to the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador Katrina Ling, in Abuja, over the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Our correspondent, Delia Moyeni, reports.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, accompanied by his wife, arrived at the official residence of the British High Commissioner to Nigeria. He proceeds to sign the condolence register on behalf of the federal government over the demise of Queen Elizabeth II. During a meeting with the British envoy, he personally delivers President Muhammadu Buhari's message to the British people, as well as other issues of common interest.
For closer working relationship, partnership with the United Kingdom has been very strong. They've been a very strong ally. We are partnering in so many areas, even dealing with the current insurgency in the country. There have been a series of negotiations and interface with the British government and British services in terms of making sure that at least we are not overwhelmed.
And I think that foundation of that strong passion of the Queen for Nigeria, for Africa, for the Commonwealth, is part of the foundation for why our relationships UK-Nigeria are so strong. Looking forward, as you say, we now have King Charles III, and I'm very happy to say I'm very hopeful that the relationship between Nigeria will continue to grow and strengthen.
The next guest is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who defied the rain to register his condolence with the British people over the loss. After a private meeting with the ambassador, he goes down memory lane. He also talks about the common interest between Nigeria and the United Kingdom.
I was just now listening to, or last night listening to Chief Emeka Anyoku, who was the Secretary General to the Commonwealth. And he gave us this anecdote about how she met his son. And she said, oh, incidentally, I'm coming to your school. That was Buckingham University next week. And that was the end of the meeting. And until he got back to school, and the director in the school called him because the Queen had called the director and said she personally wanted Emeka Anyoku's son to be present at the dinner. And so that's the kind of, she was kind-hearted.
Meanwhile, the federal government has directed all flags in Nigeria and its missions abroad to be flown at half-mast on Sunday the 11th of September 2022 and Monday the 12th of September 2022. The Ministry of Interior made the announcement in a statement as the federal government commiserates with the government and people of the United Kingdom and all affected people of the Commonwealth and the world. Delia Moyeni, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, Labour Party supporters troop out in their numbers in Enugu and Ondo states to march in solidarity with the party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi. That's in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. But here's a reminder of our top stories. A new era begins in the United Kingdom as Charles III is formally proclaimed king. Burial of Queen Elizabeth to take place on September 19th. Supporters of the Labour Party troop out in their numbers in Enugu and Ondo states to march in solidarity with the party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, say they are resolved to see a new Nigeria emerge in 2023. The People's Democratic Party in Rivers State receives defectors from opposition parties to its fold. Governor says no more opposition in the state. And flood ravages communities in Bauchi State, leaving 3 people dead and houses as well as farmlands destroyed. Where you see more supporters of the Labour Party continuing to rally other Nigerians to back the presidential candidate Peter Obi ahead of the 2023 general elections. In Enugu State, youths embarked on what they termed a 1 million man march to show their support for Mr. Obi's presidential aspiration. The youths, who now go by the sobriquet Obedience, took off from the Michael Opara Square in Enugu and marched through the major streets of the state capital. They urged residents to ensure they collect their permanent voter cards to enable them vote during the elections.
They said Peter Obi and Ahmed that he don't have structure. Look at the structures. The youths are taking back their country. This country must be good, whether they like it or they don't like it. What you're seeing here is more than 2 to 3 million people marching in Enugu. Obedient. The youth has woken up to take back their country, and they are doing it. What I'm asking every individual here, pick your PVC. Take your PVC, and you have a new Nigeria. With this youth, a new Nigeria is possible.
Well, it's a similar scenario in Ondo State, southwest Nigeria, where groups of people, mainly youths, also staged a rally in Akure, the state capital, in support of Labour Party and its presidential candidate. Dressed in branded T-shirts and caps carrying various banners, they marched through the state capital as a sign of their resolve to ensure change comes to the nation in 2023.
Nobody that you are seeing here today has been influenced by one means or the other. This is Nigerians from their house, leaving their jobs, leaving their occupations, and they are here today to say that we believe in the person of Obi and Tadati, and we know that come 2023, the country is going to take a new shape, and we're going to move in the forward direction.
Right now, we are tired, and that is why we said Peter Obi and Daddy is the reason why we are out. We are using our resources. We are using our money. I have never come out before the rally in my life, but this one, I'm ready to take it.
For more politics, it's a jolly day for the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, as the party receives into its fold hundreds of defectors from opposition political parties. Well, among those admitted into the PDP at a reception in Port Harcourt, the state capital, are prominent members of the opposition in the state, especially the All Progressives Congress. During the reception, Governor Nyesom Wike said the PDP no longer has any opposition in the state, just as he vowed that his demand for inclusion at the national level will continue.
A large gathering of members of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State at the Isaac Borough Park in Port Harcourt, venue of the grand reception of major opposition figures and their followers into the PDP.
Please, all the campees will announce your names one by one.
Tagged the 11th hour homecoming, the rally is to bring under the umbrella the likes of the former member of the Board of Trustees of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, Sam Jaja, immediate past spokesman of the APC in Rivers State, Chris Finebone, musician Mumaji, former assembly members, commissioners, council chairmen, and officials of other opposition parties across the 23 local government areas of the state.
All of them that are coming back, there is only one message. They are back home because their reason for being in politics is to bring the dividends of democracy to their various communities. But while they were still away, we are touching their people. Honorable Williams, Enos.
Next, the defectors are invited to the stage in batches according to their senatorial districts for official induction into the party.
Drop your brooms. And as I hand over the umbrella to them.
Your Excellency, I'm standing on behalf of all the campees from Southeast senatorial districts who were sometime in APC to say that none of us were invited to come. None of us were invited to the camp. On our own will and evolution, we came to you and you received us.
It's obviously a good day for Governor Nyesom Wike, who says the harvest of these grassroots mobilizers means the PDP has no challenger in next year's elections.
PDP in Rivers State is a household name. Let me assure you that we will all work with you. There's nothing like somebody who has been there since and somebody who has come back.
For Governor Wike, his interest for now is to deliver rivers for the PDP as he continues to demand for justice at the national level in spite of the vote of confidence passed on its national chairman, Senator Iyorchia Ayu.
We don't fight and go back. If you like, you can have as many as 20 votes of confidence. It's not my business. It's not my business. My business and my team is to make sure the right thing is done.
The highlight of the rally is the presentation of a certificate by the Rivers executive of the PDP in recognition of Governor Wike's strength of character in politics and governance.
Away from politics, communities in parts of Bauchi State have been devastated by floods leading to the death of 3 people. Well, authorities say more than 1,000 houses have been destroyed, with several farm produce lost. Not less than 6 sections of roads have also been washed away, and communities cut off in Gamawa, Zaki, and Ningi local government areas. Governor Bala Mohammed, who visited some areas affected by the flood in Zaki local government area, promised to bring immediate relief to the people.
They will arrest and harness the surface water resources that we have coming from the Bilimi River and Jamari River, and also to come up with technology that will create some discharge services down to the communities in Yobe and in Borno State, so that their areas are not dry. I'm calling on the federal government to urgently address this issue by bringing us the communities that are suffering and the downstream communities so that perception problem, agitation will be allayed and we'll be able to harness the water resources with the huge potentials for agriculture and development in this area. Anything short of that is just touching on the surface. We have to do it because you can see what is happening in Jigawa and in other places. I mean, in the meantime, we have come with little assistance, 2 trailers of maize, totaling 1,200 bags, and 2 vehicles of medicaments.
To security matters now, troops of the Nigerian army are said to have killed several bandits during a clearance operation in Chikun local government area of Kaduna State. During the operation, a notorious bandit, Boderi Isia, was said to have narrowly escaped, while his second-in-command, known as Musti, and several other fighters were killed by the troops. A statement by the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arawan, explains that Musti and Isia are responsible for the security breach at the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna, in August last year. They were also said to have masterminded the kidnapping of students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization and the Emir of Bungudu, as well as several other people last year. According to reports, the troops engaged the bandits around the Tollgate General area of Chikun local government. And while they scrambled in retreat, the bandits ran into another ambush laid by the troops in Sabangida General area. Meanwhile, the federal government has commissioned more operational vehicles for the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in Abuja as part of efforts to tackle insecurity in the country. But the Minister of Interior, Mr. Rauf Aragbeshala, who inaugurated the vehicles, says the government is committed to equipping all security agencies in the country to carry out their constitutional duties.
The security architecture of the country is getting a boost as the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps inducts additional operational vehicles to boost its efforts to counter all forms of vandalism. As one of the key agencies charged with the responsibility of protecting critical assets and infrastructure, the Commandant General of the Corps believes this gesture will serve as a catalyst in the Corps' effort to reduce crude oil theft, bunkering, smuggling, pipeline vandalism and other crimes across the country.
We are witnessing the commissioning of 93 operational vehicles to enhance operational efficiency. All these are efforts towards enhancing the capacity of the Corps in its irrevocable commitment towards tackling the insecurity situation in the country.
Minister of Interior, Mr. Rauf Aragbeshala, who performed the commissioning, restates the commitment of the federal government to tackle security threats. He urges the officers to show more commitment to the internal security of the nation by living up to expectations.
Particularly in this last quarter of the year, we want to be totally intolerant of anything that threatens safety, security, and peace of Nigeria and Nigerians.
Mr. Aragbeshala notes that the ministry under his watch remains unwavering, resolute and committed to strengthening the capacity and capabilities of the relevant security agencies.
The incessant attacks on our critical national assets and infrastructure in particular has become a grievous wound, dangerously bleeding the nation's economy, and which must be effectively addressed, checkmated, and caught.
The minister leaves the officers with an assurance from the president that the federal government will continue to encourage and support them through adequate training and provision of modern operational equipment to further strengthen the efforts to combat insecurity in the country.
Also, Agriculture, the Director General of the National Biosafety Agency, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, is urging farmers in the country to consider the adoption of modern-day biotechnology tools to boost their productivity and food security. Speaking at a meeting in Abuja, Professor Abdullahi explains that the nation can only attain exponential growth in its food security system through the adoption of technology that will expand its production capacities and boost its income generation.
It's a meeting that plans to broaden the horizon of Nigerian farmers as the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology (OFAB), an initiative of the Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation, is sensitizing agricultural extension workers and farmers from the north-central zone of Nigeria. The forum seeks to unbundle the importance of biotechnology applications to the end users for enhanced food production. The Director General of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, NABDA, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, who gave a lecture on how genetic modification is done, shares notes on how the training would boost farmers' understanding of the technology and subsequent acceptance and usage.
We expend huge amount of money in the country for importation of food crops, which is not supposed to be so. We have vast land, we have very rich land, and we have human resources, and the technology is what we needed to improve in the production of our crops so that we stop importing this crop for our development.
A report from the Food and Agricultural Organization showed that about 19.4 million people were likely to face food insecurity across Nigeria between June and August 2022. The report stated that the food crisis will affect Nigerians in 21 states and the FCT, including 416,000 internally displaced persons. Experts believe that the adoption of advanced technologies remains the key to averting hunger and providing income and foreign exchange for farmers.
Of all the things that will be said here today, please remember that you are the link to the attainment of food and nutrition security, which all African countries are working hard to achieve.
Investment in awareness creation and agri-biotechnology issues will deliver multiple positive responses. There's the need to unbundle the application of this technology because other countries have used it.
Agricultural biotechnology is a fast-expanding industry in the global market as it continues to contribute significantly toward increasing crop productivity, food and security. Its adoption in Nigeria may just assist in the attainment of food security.
Well, speaking of food, not less than 200 indigents from Bayelsa State are currently undergoing training in Abuja in the area of agriculture as part of efforts to grow the state's economy. Governor Doyedire explains that the program is part of an initiative to help channel the people's energies towards ventures that will help them create jobs and generate income. He was speaking during a visit to the trainees in the nation's capital.
When we talk about diversification, beyond the fact that oil is already out there, we want to have a paradigm shift of bringing back agriculture. And if you cannot feed yourself, you cannot live in the first place. And so for me, the inspiration is that Bayelsa is one of the best places for agriculture, both in aquaculture. So bringing my youths here for training is to rejig and rejuvenate the history of agriculture in Bayelsa. Right now, we have 200 youths right here now who have completed their training. And by next week or so, another 200 will be coming. And as I announced in the hall, it will be a continuous process. We'll continue to train as much as our resources will be able to carry. And so at the end of the day, you'll be talking about some 2,000 to 5,000 youths being trained in agricultural practices.
Away from the agriculture sector, but staying with job creation, the National Directorate of Employment is planning to introduce 2 new schemes to train unemployed Nigerians to create more job opportunities. The Director General of the Directorate, Mr. Abubakar Fipo, stated this when he received the Servicom Compliance Evaluation Report in the nation's capital, Abuja. Mr. Fipo explains that the schemes will target specifically unemployed graduates and school dropouts.
Let them know specifically.
As part of Sevicom's mandate to carry out independent surveys on the quality of service delivery by ministries, departments and agencies, the Office for Service Compact with all Nigerians is here to present the Service Compliance Evaluation Report to the management of the National Directorate of Employment. Poor funding, low budgetary allocation and late release of funds are some of the issues discovered during the evaluation, which happened in several state offices of the Directorate across the country.
Every location visited confirmed that there was delay in the release of funds to states for the trainings. Very also closely related to this is some of the materials and items needed by the master craftsmen and women who train this. A lot of times they do not have materials for their practical sessions.
In response to the analysis, the Director General, National Directorate of Employment, Abubakar Nuhu, pledges to adopt the recommendations and revisits the states to ensure strategic improvements.
Your observations are correct because NDE also had observed this, and we have taken measures long before now to address some of these issues. But this is what makes your report more interesting, is the fact that it is location specific.
The Directorate is planning to create 2 innovative programs to train unemployed Nigerians to create more job opportunities for the vulnerable in society.
The Graduate Attachment Program, which is targeted at graduates of tertiary institutions. Now, the second one is the Graduate Coaching Scheme. This one is targeted at 2 categories of Nigerians. First, graduates who are not employed, and secondly, secondary school leavers who are deficient, who are not able to have the requisite requirement for admissions.
The management of the Directorate explains that the idea of the innovations is to reduce the number of unemployed young Nigerians.
Now to the aviation sector. Despite Nigeria's payment of $265 million of the $464 million blocked funds in the country, the National Association of Nigerian Travel Agents, NANTA, has decried the exorbitant fares from foreign carriers. NANTA has also said that airlines whose inventories are still open to sell in Naira and not in dollars. Our aviation correspondent Bukola Joe Ketumbi now reports.
The ticketing hall of the Muritala Mohammed Airport 2 on a typical day as passengers jostle to catch a flight. Before now, there were many flights to choose from, but these days, the numbers are thinning out. This is not unconnected with the rising cost of aviation fuel that has sent fares out of the reach of regular travelers.
So that means Port Harcourt return ticket now for Port Harcourt now is 160,000. When you say because of 160,000, you want to go and take a bus, by the time they kidnap you, when they begin to ask for 10 million, this thing, you know that, oh, had I known.
While prices on the one side affects travelers, domestic airlines are battling the scarcity of foreign exchange, which affects the availability of spares and the ability to carry out heavy maintenance offshore. The side effects, many aircraft on the ground, a situation that raises the alarm bells.
Some people have quite new aircraft, so they don't have quite a lot of maintenance to do. There is no C or D checks. But if you notice all the people who went for heavy checks, the planes are not back. And the ones that are due for checks are all packed because you can't afford it.
Domestic airlines are not the only carriers in dire straits. Foreign carriers, owing to the issue of trap funds, closed their lower inventories in Nigeria, which made international fares expensive. Now that the federal government has released $265 million of the $464 million trapped, the situation remains the same, with economy tickets costing as much as 3 million naira.
It is sad that Nigerians have to buy tickets to the tune of 3 to 4 million naira and be charged as high as 1 million naira to change travel dates, even on tickets bought before this wahala began. This is unacceptable. exploitative and hostile to the survival of Nigerian aviation downstream sector, and to which we call for sanity and return to the best inventory practices and deployment.
Does the situation warrant tickets being sold in dollars?
The ones that are still open inventory, they sell in dollars. Oh, no, they don't. We sell in Naira, but the highest fares. We don't sell in dollars. They don't sell in dollars, to clarify that.
For a major airline operator, one way to bridge this gap of blocked funds and exorbitant international airfares is to ensure the Nigerian carriers are given room for reciprocity.
BASA should not be one-sided. BASA should be respected. Reciprocity is number one. And because it's number one, these countries should be made to observe that BASA decide. Nigerians should stop talking down on their government and their people. They should respect BASA themselves. Those foreign airlines, their countries, those ones that have airlines coming to Nigeria, they're making it impossible for any Nigerian airline to succeed.
Until then, Nigerians may just have to be at the mercy of foreign carriers who charge exorbitantly, as they are not sure when the next batch of funds will get to them. Bukola Joe Uketumbi, Channels Television News.
Now to health matters. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has handed over a renovated model primary health center to the Rivers State government. Speaking at the inauguration of the facility at Taba community in Kana local government area of the state, the NDDC interim administrator, Dr. Effiong Akko, explained that the intervention is in pursuit of good health care for rural communities in the Niger Delta.
This model primary health center is a soothing balm for residents of Taba community who previously had to travel over 30 kilometers to the headquarters of Kana local government to access basic health care. Formerly bereft of activity, the health center now wears a new look and is fully equipped after this intervention by the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC.
In the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
The NDDC boss says the facility, which is tastefully furnished to meet the healthcare needs of this rural community, is in pursuit of the agency's mandate to improve the quality of life of the people of the region, especially those in the rural communities.
This is going to offer like a 24-hour medical services to the people of Taba community, to the rural people who have been forgotten. So if you walk in here, those that want to deliver, those who want to have issues, medical issue of his general health center of any nature, can walk up here and then receive such facility.
For the Rivers State government, this intervention is laudable, just as the traditional ruler of the community commends the commission for providing the necessary facility to make it a life-saving center.
Everything were not working well again. And when NDDC came in, we gladly accepted them. And we are here today seeing the results. So I am glad that this thing is here for us, the Taba people, to use.
The River State government has equally done almost a yeoman in renovating some of these health centers. But when we see stakeholders that come in like this, like NDDC, we are equally appreciate it. They are complementing what the state government has done.
The Model Health Center, which is now open for use, is equipped with a 100 kVA generating plant, solar-powered system, water, special beds, wheelchairs, air conditioners, computers, and a residential quarter for medical personnel, amongst others.
Well, let's switch gears now. Teniola Oyetayo is here with the latest business stories on the News at 10.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's inflation rate is projected to climb higher by 0.76% to 20.40% in August, and that's according to economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company. In its latest projection, FDC also forecasts that the nation's food inflation will rise by 1.49% to 23.9%, while core inflation will increase by 0.54% to 16.8%. The company says the high inflation forecast for August will mark its 7th consecutive monthly increase and the country's highest in 16 years. Meanwhile, the National Bureau of Statistics is expected to release the latest inflation report on Thursday, September the 15th, which comes a week before the meeting of Nigeria's Central Bank Monetary Policy Committee. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has released a new figure quoting the amount of petrol distributed daily across the country. In its latest report, the agency says the country consumed 66.8 million litres of petrol daily and not 62.9 million, which it earlier quoted. Its response comes after the Nigeria Customs Service said the NNPC released 98 million litres daily, even when it previously claimed the country consumed 60 million litres of petrol daily. Last Sunday, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited had insisted that the country consumed 68 million litres of petrol daily. And to the financial markets now, trading activity at the forex market was mostly negative this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets dropped by 37.09% to $639.24 million as at September the 9th. A breakdown of the transaction shows that the value at the FX spot market fell by 51.92% to $338.70 million. Transactions at the FX derivatives market decreased by 77.29%, while the futures market recorded an 8.83% increase. Meanwhile, the Naira dipped by 1.63% week on week to close at 428 Naira 44 kobo against the dollar on Friday. The domestic stock market ended the first full week of September on a negative note as the benchmark index recorded declines in 3 out of the 5 trading sessions. This comes as sell pressure by investors caused the market's value in monetary terms to drop by 188.94 billion naira, while the all-share index fell by 0.70% following losses by some high-value and mid-cap equities. Sectoral performance on the NGX was mixed as the banking, industrial goods, as well as the oil and gas counter closed the week in the red, while consumer goods and the insurance sectors ended the week positive. Champs PLC led a pack of 21 gainers with 19.23% increase on its share price. Japan Gold is number among 35 other losers, while the trio of UBA, Sterling and Access Bank were major contributors to 949.81 million total volume of shares traded this week. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news at 10.
Well, thanks a lot, Teniola. The African Industrial and Development Conference and Award Ceremony has been held in Abuja to honor some prominent Nigerians who have excelled in different fields of endeavor, from humanitarian work to leadership. The speakers at the event stressed the need for proper taxation to drive economic growth, as well as the impact of a digitized economy on national development.
We give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we have our seats.
This is the first large-scale African Industrial and Development Conference and Awards, the brainchild of the Dortmund Communications Group, a communications consultancy firm that provides counsel to both public and private entities to meet complex communications challenges. Kicking off the festivities is a reminder from the United Nations Resident Coordinator on the relevance of the digital economy to national development.
Digital innovation and reaping the benefits of a digitalized economy is an essential factor in driving transformation. If greater progress is to be made into the future, a business-as-usual approach will not work.
Economic growth is driven by proper taxation, according to the former chair of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. And he states that Nigeria cannot continue to rely on foreign aid.
One thing that is sure is that we need money to do everything. And especially government needs money to provide those services and infrastructure that we all crave for and desire and want. As a tax person, I tell people that if you believe that you can continue to get aid, grants, and support from the Western world, by now you should know that that is not the case. Pre-COVID time is different from after COVID. Even the Western world is trying to manage its own finances.
Awards are given to prestigious Nigerians for outstanding performance in charity and humanitarian work, as well as diaspora leadership. Receiving his award for Outstanding Humanitarian Traditional Ruler of the Year, the Olu of Warri, His Royal Majesty Ogiame Atuwashe III, restates the need for traditional authorities to properly represent their institutions.
While we are in a very fast-changing world, as custodians of tradition and culture, we as traditional rulers must remain the door, the bridge, the anchor that ensures continuity and authenticity of the proud institutions that we represent.
The African Industrial and Development Conference and Awards would hold annually to deepen engagements in the digital economic space and reward players who put Nigeria's development first, regardless of their fields of endeavor.
As the first emir from the...
For the latest from the US Open final and other sports stories, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Yes, indeed. Many thanks, Akade. World number 1 Iga Swiatek of Poland and 5th seed Ons Jabeur of Tunisia are currently battling it out in the women's singles final at the US Open. Swiatek has taken the first set 6-2, while the second set is currently going on at Flushing Meadows. Well, if Swiatek prevails, it will be her third major title, having won 2 French Open crowns. But if Jabeur wins, she becomes the first African woman in the Open era to earn a Grand Slam singles title. Well, the venue for the Qatar 2022 FIFA World Cup final, the Lusail Stadium, has hosted a Super Cup match between Saudi Arabia's Asian champions Al Hilal and the reigning Egyptian holders Zamalek. Seen as the last major test, the 80,000 capacity arena handled a capacity crowd for the first time as it undergoes final checks before the World Cup kicks off on November the 20th. The Lusail Stadium will host 6 group stage matches, a round of 16 and quarterfinal clash, as well as the opening semi-final before the grand finale on December the 18th. And that's sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Back to you, Kylie.
Thank you, Ayotunde. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who is visiting flood-ravaged Pakistan, says he has never seen climate carnage on such a scale, blaming wealthier countries for contributing to the devastation. Nearly 1,400 people have died, and more than 1 million people have been rendered homeless in the flooding. It follows monsoon rains that began in June, which led to colossal damage to homes, roads, bridges, rail networks, livestock, and crops. Mr. Guterres says he hopes his visit will galvanize support for Pakistan, which has put the provisional cost of the catastrophe at more than $30 billion. Russian forces have withdrawn from key eastern towns as a rapid Ukrainian counterattack makes further gains. According to Ukrainian officials, troops entered Kupiansk, a vital eastern supply hub for Russian forces, today. Russia's defense ministry says its troops have retreated from nearby Izium to allow them regroup. The ministry also confirmed the withdrawal of troops from a third key town, Balaklia, in order to bolster efforts on the Donetsk front. The Ukrainian advances, if held, will be the most significant since Russia withdrew from areas around Kiev in April. In his nightly video address, President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed that Ukraine had now liberated 2,000 square kilometers from Russia since beginning a renewed counteroffensive earlier this month. And the main news again. A new era was today ushered in the United Kingdom as Charles III was formally proclaimed king. When this came as a burial of Queen Elizabeth II was announced to take place on September the 19th. Also today, supporters of the Labour Party trooped out in their numbers in Enugu and Ondo states to march in solidarity with the party's presidential candidate Peter Obi, vowing to ensure the emergence of a new Nigeria. And People's Democratic Party in Rivers State today received defectors from opposition parties to its fold. Governor Nyesom Wike said there was no more opposition in the state. And that's the news at 10 tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Hikelu. Good night.